Hello and welcome to this presentation on VLookup. VLookup is an extremely useful tool for finding information from one source with unique information you already possess. It works a bit like this. If you wanted to find a plumber, you could look one up in the telephone directory or on the internet under the word plumber, and then you'll scan through the results to find the one nearest you, or the one which is cheapest, or some other criteria that works for you. VLookup is a great tool, but it needs to be used in a very particular way to get the best results or to avoid errors or error messages. So in this presentation, you'll see how to get the results you need quickly and accurately without errors. Here's an example. There are any number of ways to demonstrate the power of VLookup, but in this example we're going to use the one which will help us fill in missing information from raw information we have shown on the left and place it in the table on the right. On the left we have a simple table with raw data about employees. Each employee has a unique employee number, and against each number could be information such as address information, next of kin, phone numbers, first name and last name. The information we want from our raw data is the first and last name for each employee number we have on the right. Before we get into using VLookup, we must first understand the rules for using it. The raw data that Excel will use is scanned and reported on in a particular way. Information is looked at from left to right and top to bottom. This is important because users of VLookup need to know key data used to find the information in the raw data table must be to the left of the information you are seeking. It doesn't have to be on the very left of the table, but in our example, our employee ID is leftmost of all the information in the table, and so when Excel looks for information from left to right, it will first see the employee ID, then information from each column can be reported from against each number. So the first golden rule is, information in your table must be in the left of the data you want to search for. There's more to learn, but let's put what we already know into action and learn the rest as we go along. So here's the task. Using the information found in the raw data table, we're going to get Excel to find the first name and place it in the appropriate cell in our table on the right using the VLookup formula. So for example, in the pay report, we can see we have an employee ID of 602693. We would like to find that information and from that get the first and last name and place it in the pay report. Before I use VLookup, I'm going to perform one preparatory task. I'm going to select the table which contains all the information I'm going to be relying on later, and I'm going to name it. This is called naming a range. It's easily done. You select the table, as I have done here, click in the name box and give it a suitable title, which in this case I'm going to call Data 1. You'll see the advantage of that later on in the presentation. Let's begin our function wizard. Click on the function wizard button. To find the function you want to use, click the search for a function box and type in VLookup and click go. Any functions relating to VLookup will appear in the functions below. VLookup is already selected, so we can click OK. As you can see, there are 4 sections to the wizard. I'm going to explain each one in turn as their meaning is not obvious to new users. The first is lookup value. What does this mean? What this means is, what is it you're looking for in the raw data file that is later going to correspond to the thing you want to find? I'll explain further. Ultimately, we want to find the first name that corresponds to the employee number 602693. We then want Excel to look up this value in our raw data table, read from left to right to find the corresponding name, and place it into the cell we need to display. So the lookup value is literally 602693, but what we want is for Excel to look up the value contained in a particular cell, whatever that value may be, so that when we copy this formula later on, the cell reference will update automatically, and whatever is in that cell will be the next number we're looking for. So in short, the lookup value is the one contained in G5. The next field to complete in this wizard is the one called table array. A table array is just a range of consecutive cells making up a table of data. In this case, our range of cells spans from B4 all the way down to D17. We could have selected this range right now by dragging from B4 to D17, but if we do that, and then later copy down the formula to the next cell, the references will automatically update to B5 to D18, and then B6 to D19, and before too long, the range of cells that Excel will investigate will contain little or no useful data at all. This is why naming the range of cells is such a good idea, because by stipulating the table array, it specifically named the range data 1. Excel will use this range of cells when we copy the formula to the next set of cells. So let's recap. So far, we have told the VLookup tool that we want to search for a value in a particular cell, and match that particular value in a particular range of cells. We have not yet told it what data we want to bring back yet, but that's what we're going to do next. In the third field, we're asked to provide a column index number. This is an unusual type of request because anyone with any Excel training will be told that Excel uses column references such as A, B, C, D, and row references of 1, 2, 3, 4. However, while these references are used for spreadsheets, when dealing with tables or table arrays, we're talking about the number of columns in a table. Our raw data table only contains 3 columns, but you might imagine that a more complicated table array could have 50 or more columns in it. The data we're interested in bringing back to our cell in the pay report is data relating to the first name. That information is contained in the third column of our table array. Therefore, the column index number we use is 3 because it is the third column that contains the data we want. The fourth and final field is supposedly an optional field, but it is strongly recommended that you never treat it as such. The range lookup allows you to enter only true or false as an option. You will almost always want to set this to false, and here is why. Rather counterintuitively, true will give you a result that is approximately accurate, whereas false will give you a result if an exact match for your lookup is found. How can this be? Well, in our particular example, we are fortunate that the employee ID numbers have already been sorted in numerical order, so Excel would have been able to find an exact match without too much difficulty. However, if the numbers were out of sequence, then Excel may choose the first number that approximately fits your search requirements. For example, instead of looking for 602,693, it may find 602,694 first and return a corresponding value in column 3 for that. You might want to use true to find an approximate or best fit scenario if you're looking for, say, a number that might have 8 decimal places, but you only know of a number that goes to 4 decimal places. In that instance, true would be a useful ally to you, but false wouldn't be because it wouldn't be able to find an exact match. So once again, let's recap. We're asking the VLookup function to find a value found in G5, which happens to be a number of 602,693. We are asking it to find that value in a table array we've named data1. And when it has found that number, we want it to find the data in the third column, if it's an exact match, and bring it back to our pay report. You can see a summary of what it is that the wizard is doing and a result of each action before you press OK. Let's click OK now. Let's do another one, this time with less explanation so you can see what's going on. First, let's make sure our answer is going to appear in the correct cell by clicking on I16. Start the wizard by clicking the FX button. Select the VLookup to start the wizard. This time we want to find the value contained in our pay report in G6. We will find that data in our table array which we've already named data1. We want the first name to be found from that array contained in the third column. And we want an accurate result, not an approximate one, so we'll choose false and click OK. Success! By clicking and dragging on the fill handle found at the bottom right of the active cell, we can copy this working formula down. So we shall do that now. Let's do the same thing again for the last name column. Make sure your active cell is in the correct place and click the FX button. Select VLookup. Click OK. The lookup value for this one is 602,693 found in cell G5. The table array we've already defined is data 1. And we want the last name this time. The column index number is the second column along. We want an accurate result, so we'll type in false. And click OK. Let's copy this result down. And we can find we have corresponding names with employee IDs.